Hey, and welcome back to the Mike's On with College Football podcast. I'm your host, Michael Collins, and we're coming at you with a long overdue Week 0 review, looking at the games from the past weekend. So we did pretty good on our picks. Right away, Austin Peay at Western Kentucky. Really didn't like how Western Kentucky struggled. They struggled to really run the ball. They averaged 3.4 yards per carry. Longest run of 15 yards against an FCS program. Looks like they still have a lot of rebuilding to do on offense. They won 38-27, but just looked a little sloppy and rusty on offense against an FCS program. Now, Austin Peay's not bad. They're a pretty good program, but you got to look better than that. And we hope to see Western Kentucky elevate their play going forward. Next, we had a big one in Dublin, Nebraska and Northwestern. Really needed to see both these offenses come out and look good, and they did. Northwestern, surprisingly, was really getting it in the run game as well as the pass game. Ryan Hilinski, that's probably the best game I've ever seen him play. Northwestern had 47 carries for 214 yards. Ryan Hilinski throwing 27 of 38 for 313 yards and 2 touchdowns. Really interesting onside kick by Nebraska and Scott Frost in the third quarter. They get up 11, score a touchdown, kick an onside kick. It's covered immediately by Northwestern. Bit of a surprise onside kick. They didn't really set up for it. And Northwestern goes ahead and scores, and Nebraska never scores again. Nebraska struggled with turnovers. They had 3 of them, 2 picks and a fumble. And again, they had the ball. They had the ball to win the game. 2 minutes left at their own 5-yard line, and ended up throwing a pick to lose. This is now Nebraska under Scott Frost is 5-21 in games decided by 1 score. Very, very abysmal for the Scott Frost tenure there at Nebraska. Was really looking at that game to get a win and needed it probably to go to a bowl game. Making a bowl this year now for Nebraska is tight. It's tight. Their November schedule is rough. Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, and a couple other tough ones down the stretch there in November. So they got to do a lot of the heavy lifting before then, and we're looking to get a win there. We did pick Northwestern to cover, which was awesome. However, we didn't get Nebraska winning. So we kind of min-maxed that one there. Probably won't do that for the rest of the season. But we got the cover, but we didn't pick the winner. UNLV versus Idaho State. UNLV came out on fire, as I wanted them to do. 52-21. They had 45. They had 45 by halftime. So they came out in all cylinders. Big name to know here is Mike White III from UNLV, wide receiver, transferred from Michigan State. Ricky White III from Michigan State. He had 9 catches for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns. Absolute beast. Look for him to destroy the Mountain West this season. I'm all in on UNLV now. We're running with the Rebels for sure. Their offense looks potent. It was Idaho State, but hey, I mean, a nice stretch the legs game for the Runnin' Rebs, who have only won 3 games in 2 years. So good looking out there, Rebels. Next game we had UConn and Utah State. Surprise sleepy start for Utah State Aggies at home. You know, not too early, 4:00 Eastern kicks. That's too local. Like, just came out and went an early 14-0 hole against the Huskies, who ran the ball pretty good. Early at least. They had a great second quarter. Utah State did to get it to 24-14. Kind of just woke up. Especially on defense. I mean, the early part of the game, they were just sloppy, out of place, out of position, wide open gaps. It was pretty gross. But kind of put it together by halftime, and even into the scoreless third quarter, they go into the second, and UConn kicks 2 field goals to make it a 4-point game with 10 minutes left. Still not where you want to be against a, I guess, more gumption UConn team this year. Still, it was not a good showing for the Utah State Aggies, who score late to push it to 31-20, but not what you really wanted to see. So we don't hit the cover for Utah State, and the over-under, we went over, and that game went under. So 0 for 2 on the Utah State game, and kind of pumping the brakes on Utah State for the rest of the season, or at least next week they play at Alabama, so that's kind of like a bye week, like you show up, get killed, and go home, get paid. So we'll check in with them in a few weeks, but a really sluggish start. And the juxtaposition in talent that they're going to face from playing UConn to Alabama in 1 week, tough to be an Aggie there. Another great game of the afternoon, Wyoming at Illinois. We had Illinois covers, and we're going to play the under. So it was a little slow early. Illinois kind of played with their food in the first half, 7-3 with 10 minutes left in the second, and finally 17-3 at the half. Cade Davis for Illinois had 139 rush yards at the half, so he got to sit a little bit in the second half there. And Illinois gets the win 38-6. Looks pretty competent. Wyoming, we thought they were going to be in pretty big rebuild mode, and outside of the first drive where they kicked a field goal, and then in the second half they had a QB run that just went for like 40 yards to get them into field goal range. Not a lot going on there for the Cowboys of Wyoming. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a tough season, so we're going to fade Wyoming pretty good going through the rest of the season here. Illinois wins, and the over-under, we hit the under, as actually it ties. We hit a push. Over-under was set at 44. The total was 44, so we pushed there. 1-0-1 there. Not bad, not bad. We go to Florida State Duquesne. This game got pushed for rain. It was originally supposed to be a 5 o'clock, ended up being a 6:30 kick Eastern. I wanted 28 in the first quarter from Florida State, and I ended up getting 20, so I'm happy with that. Really liked how Florida State came out and established the run. They threw the ball a little bit, had a wide receiver tweak an ankle, and kind of packed it in the rest of the way and just pounded the rock. FSU gets 28 carries for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, 7.1 a carry, pretty nice there. That was at the half, and for the game, it was 54 rushes for 406 yards. Really wanted to flex the muscles in the run game, and they did against a pretty woeful Duquesne team. Also looked great on defense. Duquesne only got 1 score. Its final was 47-7. New transfer Jared Verse out of Albany University gets a sack. Good to see for him. Charlotte at FAU. I kind of bounced around with this game. Charlotte looked just lackluster the whole way. Just didn't come out swinging with their A game. Chris Reynolds, their quarterback, gets hurt early, or not early, like somewhere through the second quarter. Put in the backup quarterback, and ends up throwing a pick six that proves really costly. It goes to 26-7 FAU at half. FAU looked pretty competent on offense, now albeit against a pretty poor and woeful Charlotte defense, as we thought they were going to be, but I didn't think they'd be that bad. FAU was not a good offense last season and looked pretty in control for this game. Don't know what's going on with that UNC Charlotte offense that scored a bunch of points last year, and maybe Charlotte is going to have to rotate in some QBs. I don't know what the injury update is there with Chris Reynolds. He did come back into the game in the second half, but then they did pull him late. Right there, we get FAU and the under hits. So that's a double. That's 2-0 for us on that game. Florida A&M at UNC. This game had some weather early, but no delay on the start. Florida A&M, they did have some issues with their own team and eligibility concerns. They were down about 20 to 25 scholarship players. They were ineligible and had only 8 offensive linemen for the game. There's some litigation going on between the players and the university in terms of getting their eligibility restored right now, and all hope, all power to those Florida A&M players for coming down to Chapel Hill and playing with such shorthanded and showed up. 28 to 14 at the half. Florida A&M looked strong on offense early, scoring on their first 2 possessions. A little sluggish on defense for the Heels. Wanted to see that defensive line come out strong, want to see the stars turn into production, and it really wasn't there. Kind of concerning for the Heels. Drake May, though, quarterback for the Heels, redshirt freshman, first start looked fine. He had 5 touchdown passes and about 177 yards, so he looked pretty great. Also busted like a 40-yard run. So QB looks solid for the Heels. Also had to start 2 freshman running backs for the Heels, and they both looked great. Drake May had 5 touchdowns and just under 300 yards. NC finished the game with 40 rushes for 314 yards and 3 touchdowns, highlighted by their 2 freshman running backs. One of the nightcaps heading into the evening here, we've got North Texas at UTEP. This was a 9 o'clock kick, got pushed for weather again. A lot of weather games. We had UTEP and the under in this one. Was really looking for my boy Gavin Hardison for UTEP to come out there and start slinging the rock, but I think him losing his 2 top wide receivers from last year is hurting the Miners. They have a lot of starts and a strong returning offensive line, but didn't run the ball as well as I thought they might and tried to lean into the passing game more. They do have a good quarterback. Gavin Hardison can sling it. Strong arm on that guy. He can push it down the field, but no one really got open. It was at half 14 to 13, so it was close at half, and then turnovers for UTEP. Gavin trying to force it into zone coverage, and it just wasn't there. Decent pockets for him, but no one was open. So we don't get the win for UTEP, but however, we did hit the under at 54.5. It was a low-scoring game at the end. North Texas pounding the rock, looks strong. They've won their last 6 games in conference. They won their last 5 to get to a bowl game last year and their first one this year. So a bit of a turnaround there in Denton for North Texas and Kevin and Seth Luttrell. Good to see after a bit of a lull there. It's nice to see them pick it back up. I hope UTEP can bounce back. Might have to switch to a bit more ground attack on offense. I don't see the receivers being there this year for Gavin. So hopefully UTEP can right the ship. Then we had New Mexico State hosting Novato, Sicko's game of the week. We had in this one New Mexico State and the under. New Mexico State starts out with David Pavia, a JUCO transfer who's pretty good at running the ball. He ends up throwing 2 picks that were really not his fault. He put 2 off a receiver's hands and one airmail just down the sideline trying to push the ball deep. So not crazy interceptions, but they really hindered the offense, who was moving the ball pretty well to start the game. New Mexico State goes into the half at 17-2. Their only score being a safety off of a bad snap that the quarterback falls on for Nevada in the end zone. New Mexico State does end up pulling it to 20-12 late and gets the ball with a chance to tie. And ends up they subbed in a freshman quarterback from Oklahoma who started to really carve up Nevada's defense. I think he might be the starter going forward. Gavin Franks is his name, and he was cooking. New Mexico State, interestingly enough, they're a lot more pass happy than I've seen them in the past, so they're kind of running more of a spread style there. Just got to catch the ball. I mean, they had probably like 8 or 9 drops. Receivers just not ready for the lights. So in this one, we don't pick the right team to win, but we do hit the over under. That was set at 50, and the total finished at 35. So a win there. Last game of the night, Vanderbilt goes to the island to play Hawaii out there. That was a 10:30 kick. We had Hawaii and the under, and both failed. In fact, Vandy by itself hit the over. Vandy wins 63-10 in a showing for Vanderbilt that is historic. This is the first. It was the largest margin of victory against an out-of-conference opponent for Vanderbilt since the 40s. So awesome there for the Commodores, who definitely need to look positive and a good showing in their non-conference schedule. They definitely look a lot tougher and meaner and just more athletic. Their quarterback was absolutely awesome. He had 163 on the ground and 160-something in the air. So a nice 1-2 punch there, ground and air combo for him. At half, it was only 21-10, and then Hawaii just didn't have it in the bag. 2 turnovers led to immediate 2 fumble recovery touchdowns for Vanderbilt in this game. Really took the steam out of Hawaii. They look like they've got kids on that team that might not be D1 talent, and it showed in this game. They do need to kind of figure out quarterback. They played around there. I didn't think Chris Yellen did very good there. They probably want to just go with the starter they started. Anyway, Hawaii, long rebuild ahead for them this year. Love my Bows, but it might not be this year. There's a couple more games on the schedule that they could look to capitalize on. It's not next week, though, or in 2 weeks, rather, because they're going to Michigan in 2 weeks. So, Bows we'll keep an eye on, but it's probably a slow one. And Vandy, hey, they might win an SEC. They might surprise someone this year in the SEC because that defense definitely looked pretty solid, and offensively putting up 63 points. Hey, you're doing something right. So we don't hit either. We go 0-2 on that game. And not bad for week 0. Definitely kind of went with more emotions on some of these picks than should have just gone by the numbers. But a fun week 0 nonetheless. Definitely enjoyed watching these games, and I'll have a week 1 review that's going to be coming out Thursday sometime in the evening. And a good look ahead for this weekend's games. Thank you guys so much. Remember to like and subscribe. I'm Mike Collins for the Mike's On with College Football podcast, and we'll see you next time.